flip phones have been making a comeback. And if you want the very best modern flip phone, well, two names stand above all: the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5 and the Motorola Razr Plus 2023. The Motorola Razr Plus was the first one to bring an edge-to-edge outer screen to a flip phone, and now the Galaxy Z Flip 5 is catching up with an L-size screen on its flap as well. In theory, this should make your clamshell phone more usable, with more actionable content delivered straight on the outside screen. In reality, the Razr Plus lets you open actual apps back there, while the Flip 5 is limited to widgets. Samsung, however, has the advantage of a sturdier hinge, and it is the first flip phone with the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip. Plus, it now has double the storage in the base model. So which phone should you choose? Let's explore the differences to find out. Both have nearly large outer screens. The Galaxy Z Flip 5 has got a faster Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip, the dual camera system on both. The Galaxy Z Flip 5 has a 12-megapixel wide camera with 1.8 aperture and a 12-megapixel ultra-wide camera with 2.2 aperture, whereas the Razr Plus has a 12-megapixel wide camera with a 1.5 aperture and a 13-megapixel ultra-wide. On the front camera, the Z Flip has a 10-megapixel selfie camera, and the Razr Plus has a 32-megapixel selfie camera. Motorola has faster charging speeds. Similar $1,000-ish price. Both the Galaxy Z Flip 5 and Motorola Razr Plus can close with no gap, which is great so dust does not have an easy way in. The Galaxy has flat sides while the Razr goes for curved ones. Both have their pros and cons, but the Motorola is just a bit easier to open because of the flaps curving inwards where they meet. These two phones, when closed, have exactly the same thickness, and their weight is also identical at 6.7 ounces, which is 189 grams. When it comes to dust and water resistance, the Galaxy Z Flip 5 has an IPX8 rating, while the Razr Plus carries an IP52 rating. What this means is that the Samsung phone is not certified against small particles at all, while the Motorola has some limited dust protection. This is important because dust remains the arch-enemy of folding phones, and it's definitely reassuring to see Motorola addressing this. However, the Galaxy has an 8 water protection rating versus a 2 on the Razr. Motorola says its phone can resist spills, splashes, or light rain, while you have much more substantial water protection on the Galaxy, up to 1.5 meters submersion for 30 minutes of fresh water. Both phones come with an aluminum frame and a glass back, but the Motorola also has a beautiful and very fashionable vegan leather option that you don't get on the Galaxy Flip 5. The Galaxy Z Flip 5 is the first Samsung flip phone with a nearly edge-to-edge 3.4-inch outer screen, but despite Samsung being the pioneer in modern foldable phones, Motorola was actually the first with this feature. The Razr Plus comes with an even larger edge-to-edge 3.6-inch outer screen, which gives you all the functionality you can imagine. All apps work on it. You can browse the web, watch videos, chat, use it for payments, even play games. Anything really. In comparison, the use of the cover screen on the Galaxy Z Flip 5 is slightly limited. It supports a few widgets made by Samsung, and also it runs some essential apps. On the unit we tested, we could run Google Maps, YouTube, Netflix, and a few messaging apps, which definitely covers the bases. But you should know that the Samsung outer screen only runs at 60 Hz, while the Motorola One supports a buttery smooth 165 Hz refresh rate. As for the main screen, the Motorola has a slightly larger one at 6.9 inches versus 6.7 inches on the Galaxy, and both of them use this tall and weird 22:9 aspect ratio. Both are OLED, both have 1080p resolution and a fast refresh rate. 120 Hz on Galaxy versus 165 Hz on the Razr Plus. As for biometrics, the two rely on a traditional fingerprint scanner embedded in the power button on the side of the phone. It might not be the most convenient placement, a front position fingerprint seems more optimal. But this technology is mature, and we have had no complaints. Both are fast and accurate. Galaxy has more firepower, but does it matter? The one compromise that Motorola has made with the Razr Plus is that the phone is equipped with last year's top chip, the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, while the Galaxy Z Flip 5 uses the newer and slightly more powerful Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which Samsung calls made for Galaxy Edition. Does this matter? Well, yes and no. Both of those chips are flagship ones and have plenty of performance, so for the majority of users, a few percentage points will probably make no noticeable difference. But for those who care about having the best performance, or for gamers, the Galaxy will have an upper hand. In benchmarks, the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5 performs slightly higher than the Motorola Razr 5. We are also glad to see that both the Galaxy Z Flip 5 and Motorola Razr Plus come with 256 GB of storage in the base model. We should also mention the software. Both phones run Android 13, but it looks different. The Motorola goes with a clean custom interface on top of that and only adds a few quite useful gestures. Chop chop to start the flashlight, twist the phone to start the camera, and so on. The Galaxy, on the other hand, uses Samsung's One UI, which has more options and various other settings to tweak. Samsung also has the upper hand with software updates. The Galaxy Flip 5 is expected to get 4 years of major OS updates compared to just 3 years on Motorola. Is there a meaningful difference in camera quality? Both the Galaxy Flip 5 and Razr Plus feature a dual camera system with a wide and ultra-wide lens, and there is no telephoto zoom lens on either one. The flip phone form factor does not allow for much space for large sensors, so both these phones have smaller physical sensors than traditional. When we reviewed the Razr Plus, we noted that the camera may not be exquisite, but was still pretty good and dependable for memorabilia capture. We will see if the Flip 5 brings any improvements to Samsung's camera chops, and will be posting a detailed side-by-side camera comparison in just a few days, so check back here then for that. The Razr Plus has well-balanced loudspeaker quality with a dual speaker system, but it does not get very loud. The Razr has a slightly larger battery and faster charging with a 3800 mAh battery. The Motorola Razr Plus has one of the largest batteries among flip phones, while the Galaxy uses a slightly smaller 3700 battery. However, don't forget the newer and more power-efficient chip on the Galaxy, which might give it an edge. The Galaxy Z Flip 5, on the other hand, gets just a bit boomier, but neither of these two phones goes beyond expectations for sound quality. Neither phone has a 3.5mm headphone jack, in case you were wondering. As for haptic feedback, these phones click accurately and responsively, underlining every action we do on the display. Both are good at it, and when it comes to charging, we have a 25 watts charging speed on the Galaxy and a faster 30 watts charging rate on the Razr. Both phones also support wireless charging, but here the Galaxy is expected to be faster with a 10 watts wireless charging rate versus 5 watts for the Razr. So how fast do this charge in real life? Let's take a look. As you can see, the Razr definitely has the upper hand when it comes to charging speeds. Even though both devices are running Android 13 out of the box, that's where the similarities end. Samsung's One UI has been well optimized for a few years, and its support has been excellent. For the Flip 5, Samsung promises 4 major Android updates and 5 years of security patches. Motorola is promising similar support for the Razr Plus, but its recent track record has been less impressive. Motorola has struggled to push out updates quickly, and major Android upgrades are often delayed. While they've done better so far with the Razr Plus, it's something worth considering. The software experience between the two is quite different as well. Moto offers a relatively stock Android experience with only its gestures and a few other items layered into the UI. It's a clean implementation, and Moto is a good choice if you're looking for a Pixel experience without Google hardware. One UI is altogether different. It's heavily skinned, but not to the detriment of performance. I love what Samsung has done with its software over the last few years, and while it's up to personal preference, I enjoy what One UI provides. The Motorola Razr Plus 2023 has really shaken things up in what was a very quiet flip phone space. It's an excellent phone, but has Samsung caught up? The larger outer screen is the main improvement, and then you also have the faster processor and the no-gap design too. But on the flip side, things like the crease are still there, and camera improvements are not as big as we hoped for. At the end of the day, for the average user who wants a good modern flip phone, both of these seem like they will fit the bill. The reason to pick the Motorola would be the slightly more functional and larger outer screen, but the Galaxy has the advantage of the Samsung brand